Hello and welcome. You're watching In Your Interest with me, Shweta Kothari. Tonight, we turn our attention to a heartbreaking reality that's gripping classrooms across India. A wave of student suicides and tragedies linked to bullying, harassment and unrelenting pressure. In just the past few months, we have seen young lives cut short or shattered in Delhi, Jaipur, Madhya Pradesh and Gujarat. And this has left parents in grief, the nation demanding answers. These aren't isolated stories, they're symptoms of a deeper crisis in our school. One that has been building for years now. Let's start with a high-profile Delhi case where a class 10 student took his own life at a metro station. It all came to a head during a rehearsal on the school premises on 18th of November when the boy twisted his ankle but was accused of overreacting. A teacher scolded him in front of the entire class, dismissing his tears as meaningless. His family claims that the boy faced months of mental harassment by teachers. And now a high-level committee formed by the government is investigating the case. The school has suspended the headmaster and 3 teachers. But for this family, no action can bring back their son.
मैं उससे बहुत चिंतित हूँ। एक एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर नहीं, एक चिंतित अभिभावक के तौर पर मैं स्कूलों को लिख रहा हूं। उनके पास मेंटल हेल्थ के लिए, मेंटल फिटनेस के लिए जो सीबीएसई के दिए हुए मानक हैं, क्या उसकी पालना हो रही है? हमारी चिंता का विषय है और हम स्कूलों को लिख रहे हैं कि इसकी पालना होनी चाहिए। जहां पालना नहीं हो रही है उसकी हम हैंड होल्डिंग भी करेंगे, सहयोग भी करेंगे, उसको पूरा होना चाहिए। हमारी अगली पीढ़ी मानसिक रूप से सुदृढ़ रहे, मजबूत रहे।
Just weeks earlier in Jaipur, a class 4th girl jumped from the 4th floor of her school, ending her short life, made it shorter on 1st of November. Her parents say she endured at least 18 months of bullying, including cruel sexual verbal abuse from her classmates. She reached out to 2 of her teachers at least twice, begging for help, but received no counseling or support.
एक्शन तो नीरजा मोदी के खिलाफ तो स्ट्रिक्ट एक्शन चाहते ही हैं, क्योंकि जिस हिसाब से उन्होंने इतनी लापरवाही दिखाई है और मेरे बच्चे की जान गई है, तो उस पर तो सख्त कार्रवाई होनी चाहिए। डीएफिलिएशन तो होनी चाहिए स्कूल की, और जो क्लास टीचर है और जो प्रिंसिपल है उसमें तो अबेटमेंट टू सुसाइड वाला केस लगना चाहिए, क्योंकि ये सामान्य नेग्लिजेंस नहीं है। उसको उस हद तक पहुंचाया गया कि बच्ची एकदम सही थी, बहुत खुशमिजाज थी, उसी दिन एक ही दिन में उसको इस लेवल पे पहुंचा दिया गया कि वो जाके वहां बैठ।
Moving on to Rewa now in Madhya Pradesh, an 11th grade girl left behind a notebook filled with anguish before ending her life. In it, she described repeated inappropriate behavior from a teacher who held her hand too tightly under the guise of punishment, even pressing a pen between her fingers to cause pain.
11/25 को ये जो बच्ची है, इन्होंने खुद के ही घर में फांसी लगा के जो है ये खत्म हो गई हैं। जैसे ही पुलिस को सूचना मिली है, इसमें मर्ग कायम कर लिया गया है और मामले को जांच में ले लिया गया है। आगे इसमें जांच की जाएगी और जांच में जो भी फैक्ट्स आएंगे या जो भी तथ्य सामने आते हैं, तो उस अनुसार इसमें आगे कार्यवाही की जाए।
In Kadi in Gujarat, a class 6th boy came close to losing his life when he jumped from the 2nd floor of his school. He is in hospital now with a fractured leg, recovering from what his parents call harsh punishment. He was forced to sit outside in the cold as discipline.
मैडम कुछ बोला भी नहीं है, मैडम बाहर आओ तो दौड़ के आया, बच्चा गिर गया। मैं तुरंत इधर ऑफिस के आया, कार निकालो एंड we took him to the hospital. Okay, तो ऊपर से गिरा ऐसा, लाइक कान से गिरा, कैसे ऐसा कुछ पता, तुरंत उनका फर्स्ट थिंग उनका लाइक फर्स्ट एड देने का, तो हॉस्पिटल लेके गए। फिर बाद में चेक किया, ऊपर से लाइक जंप किया, ऐसा टॉर्चर ऐसा उनका बाकी था। इसलिए मैडम उनका ऐसा, मैडम को मैंने पूछा, मैडम बाहर बिठा के उनको लिखने दिया, कंप्लीट करो बाहर बिठा के, ऐसा लाइक मैंने बाहर बिठाया ऐसा कंप्लीट करने के लिए।
All of these stories are coming from different corners of the country, but echoing the same cry. Our children are suffering in silence, and the systems meant to protect them are falling apart. Over the past decade, student suicides have surged by 64.9%, almost 65%, jumping from 8,424 in 2013 to 13,892 in 2023. Students now make up to 8% of all suicides in India, up from 6.2% over a decade ago, while overall suicide have now grown to 23.2% in the same timeline. Student cases climbed a staggering 65%. And at the heart of this crisis is what many people call India's pressure cooker education system. Classrooms have become battlegrounds of competition, where curiosity and joy give way to endless exams and rankings. Standardized tests rule everything, stifling critical thinking and piling on stress from academics and family alike. Only 41% of youth aged between 15 and 24 feel comfortable seeking help, a figure that's uniquely low in India, according to UNICEF. Another study shows that 1 in 3 students report moderate to severe depression, and most with suicidal thoughts never speak up to either teachers or counselors. Recognizing this silent epidemic, the Supreme Court has now stepped in with 15 binding guidelines to fill the gap in our suicide prevention efforts. Every school must now have 1 trained counselor for every 100 students. Public shaming and segregation are also banned. Exam pressure must be managed with mentor support, and parents too must undergo sessions on how to handle academic stress at home. There are big steps being taken, but will they truly create change on ground? The big question that we're asking tonight is how many tragedies before schools put children's mental well-being above marks, and what will it take to make education a space of care and not fear? To talk about that, joining us on the show is Anubha Shrivastava, Sahai, President of India White Parents Association. Also with us is Deepa Kumar, Founder and CEO, One More School, Miranda House, and Sumit Jain, President, Dynamic United Parents Association, and Dilip Cherian, he's a communication expert and founder, Perfect Relations and Image Group. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out. Dilip Cherian, I want to begin with you first. We're looking at a societal problem. We're looking at a problem where there have been many red flags. Students who often complain that they are being tortured by their classmates, they're being bullied by their teachers, or vice versa. But many of these red flags are often ignored. I have to ask you, who should be made responsible? You know, we're looking at accountability mechanism. We want to know who is responsible for these students and who is responsible for missing those red flags that can potentially save lives.
Good question. I think that if you were to pinpoint the responsibilities, you would obviously start with the schools and the class teachers or whatever teachers they are supposed to be in charge of each classroom. Then in terms of responsibility would be the supervising principal, whose job it is to make sure that the teachers are motivated to take the steps and undergo the training themselves, and manage parents, which is also a big red flag. Parents are sometimes the reason why many of these children have a pressure cooker atmosphere in the school, and then it continues at the home where tuitions are forced on them. And you know, just like you have a figure for the rise in suicides of children, we must also track how the rise in time spent at tuitions has increased phenomenally for schools across the board. Now, the third thing which we need to be recognizing is that I know that the new education policy is in place, but has someone taken a clear look at how to manage this syllabus within the time frame of what is available in terms of hours in school? But remember, all of this is to do with schools at a certain level. Meaning, we have schools of many kinds in this country, and we need to recognize that the majority of children don't go to the kind of schools that we are discussing in this program. So we need to be careful where the red flags are, and we also need to understand whether the same pressures exist in the other schools which are beyond the pale of what we are discussing, and should we be looking at what's going to happen to those children also? So I'll stop here now because I know you need to go around twice.
Thank you for that. Anubha Srivastava, the pressure cooker education system that exists continues to be a pain point for many young kids. But as Dilip Cherian pointed out, it's also got to do with pressure at home. Often it's the combined pressure of punishing students, normalizing punishment and normalizing punishment for disobedience that both parents as well as schools promote in order to inculcate what they believe is discipline that is killing our kids today. So perhaps not just, doing with measures in school and ensuring that there are guidelines in school. I think parents also need to be sensitized.
Yeah, thank you for having me on this show. And yes, definitely parents also need to be sensitized. And yesterday also I have raised this point that the counseling of parent is also mandatory. The school should conduct counseling of teachers, staff, students and parents as well. So counseling is must, and at the same time the management, I don't know what kind of teachers they are recruiting. When a management is hiring a teacher or any staff, non-teaching staff, so they should at least find out whether the teacher is having basic knowledge of all these pressure which the students are going through or not, or how to handle at the time of taking interview. I don't know how the management is taking interviews, because what I feel what is happening in these days, teacher accreditation rate is too high because they are not being paid well in most of the schools. I would say 90 to 95% schools, they don't pay well to all these teachers. So that's why the accreditation rate is very high. There is a lot of pressure on teachers also. And management is not taking good steps, or they are not taking steps to implement mental health act in their school level. Counseling is not happening.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
If any incident happens, they just they don't take any responsibility. And there are many teachers and principals also who threaten parents and teachers. Like what happened yesterday, it's a very common practice where if you will complain, they will threaten your child. They will threaten you that it's better you go and take admission at some other school. So I think it's high time that the management should be held accountable. And at the same time, if any incident happens, then the school management should be transferred to some other. There is a Transfer of Management Act also that can be implemented all over India. The school management should be transferred to some other school, to some other trust or society which can handle the kids very well and which can take care of the children as well as teachers.
All right. Deepa Kumar, I think that's a good point. The fact that, teachers are often not sensitized, but more importantly, there's no background check on a teacher. I've not come across a background check on a teacher where the teacher knows how to handle kids. All that is taken into consideration. At least that is what used to happen in my time as well. I'm hearing, from other parents also, including Anubha, that their education is important, their teaching experience is important. What's not important is whether they know how to deal with kids. And I think perhaps something that, schools should now look at implementing, should look at now going through, teachers' backgrounds, conducting background checks, and perhaps time now to also come up with a centralized reporting mechanism where when there is a bullying and there is a complaint made by a student, that can be dealt with effectively by the management as opposed to being brushed under carpet, because that's what we see happening in many of these cases of suicides that I narrated earlier today, where students did go to teachers. They did tell their teachers that, look, this is happening to us, but all their complaints fell on deaf ears.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I would say it is not that the schools are not sensitive towards checking the background, but yes, I feel the situation, what has risen now, we are all equally responsible. The school, the management, the community, the parents. Teachers have to be sensitized, there is no doubt. And every teacher must be trained to become what I call teacher counselor. Because teacher has to deal with every child individually, raise the red flags, not demean a child, not discourage a child, just make sure that they develop love for learning, not be scared of learning. not be scared to be judged. This is what is more important. Unfortunately, our systems are such. There is parental pressure, there is peer pressure, there is community pressure to do well, to perform well, not realizing that I am not caring about myself as an individual. I'm more worried because what will my teacher say? What will my mother say? What will my neighbor say? And in this bargain, children start losing their self-esteem, their confidence. They, instead of enjoying the process of learning, instead of enjoying everyday experiences, they have begun to become a little more depressed. They're not that free. They're always worried about what will others say. So teachers have to be sensitized. They have to undergo regular trainings. They must be constantly spoken to. There must be constant interaction between the management, the school, the teachers, and sometimes the children to understand from them also, is this something that you're facing? Is this something I need to change? Or my school needs to change? We have to be open to it. Otherwise, believe me, this will increase, because I have the experience. I often meet students, parents, and I can see the pain. I can see the students. But what are we doing about it? Are we training ourselves?
You know what the real tragedy is, Sumit Jain, that it's been years now we've been hearing of student suicides, and they're only rising by as much as 60%, despite the fact that there have been various guidelines put into place. NCERT has come up with guidelines. Supreme Court now has also stepped up, come up with at least 15 guidelines to ensure that children are safe. In many schools, I'm given to understand, the idea of corporal punishment has been completely abolished, yet the death rates continue to rise. So clearly there is a gap here that we haven't been able to identify.
Yes, first of all, good evening everyone. The rightly said, my co-guest also explained many points, and they have risen many points regarding the same. I also want to express that why this is becoming a pressure cooker kind of a situation. The situation is so because the students have been trained to study for marks, not for knowledge. Why this is happening? Why the marks are so important? Why the knowledge is not important? This has to be taken into consideration, that students should be trained in such a way that they should get into interest with studies. They should not be made a pressure cooker kind of a situation. Also, if we look into the matter, rightly said also that coaching centers, previously also you've heard about many cases about quota also. We've heard many cases in quota. There are suicidal cases in quota as well. Why the coaching centers, why the schools, why the parents are putting so much pressure on the student to make into a pressure cooker kind of situation? You have rightly said that Supreme Court has given more than 15 parameters. There are many parameters which Supreme Court has, but nobody is listening to those. Nobody, I was listening to your show earlier, our education minister, he has also given the guidelines and everything. But still, even after so many guidelines, even after Supreme Court has entered into this kind of situations, they are interfering. Our other also understand, our parents, why parents are not understanding the situation, that why they are creating such kind of a situation where students get into these situations. So
it's a societal rot, Dilip Cherian, something Dilip Cherian, something that we have been able to successfully identify. We are questioning it as we speak, but nonetheless, despite all the changes and awareness around a need for children to have safer environment at school and safe environment in at home as well as at school, there's been little changes on ground. So until that comes, that sense of awareness comes in naturally, guidelines need to be implemented, not just on paper but in spirit. Dilip Cherian, so what's preventing from these policies to actually work on ground? Why are they failing on ground? Is it lack of will? Is it funds? Is it monitoring? Or is it something deeper?
I think to the very start of it needs to be cost. There are two aspects to cost. One is that parents feel that since they are paying such large amounts of money for the schooling of their children and the tuitions, that they can outsource the entire structure of parenting to schools. So, today most families are nuclear, many families are double working parents, and therefore the idea is that we expect the school to be nanny, mummy, and everything else to the child, because that is the kind of money that they are spending. The second thing is, we heard the education minister talk about the need for counselors. Now, if the kind of parameter that is being drawn up, which is one counselor for every 100 students, and unless teachers themselves double up as counselors after training appropriately, you will need 20 counselors for every average school. And schools are not working with those margins, and the ones who are making massive profits are not declaring them. So in a sense, the fact is that the good schools are under pressure because they have to keep costs at a certain level. And what was mentioned earlier, the attrition of teachers, because teachers are also underpaid. So I don't see schools being able to do any of this. They will also just tick the boxes in terms of conforming to what is prescribed by either the Supreme Court or the ministries of education, and the ball will be tossed between them. But it is the parents and the students who have to recognize that this mindless chasing of marks at the cost of a real education is what is inimical to their growth and progress.
Right.
And as far as corporal punishment is concerned, please understand that I don't know about your generation, but my generation certainly grew up with a steady dose of corporal punishment, and we came out none the worse for it. So I don't think it's any of that. It is the mental pressures which are really at the bottom of it, and unchecked bullying both by teachers and by their peers.
All right, and Dilip, I agree with you on a lot of fronts, but I also disagree slightly. I do believe that many of these private schools have a huge bottom line. They are charging exorbitant fee, and that's also something that we have talked about here repeatedly on the shows. And despite of that, the infrastructure remains abysmally bad. There are very few counselors on ground. Realistically, guidelines say there should be one counselor for 100 students. There could just be one or two counselors for thousands of students that they have enrolled. So I think the education system, Anubha Srivastav, is also today focused a lot on making money. Many of these founders, directors, they are making so much money, but they are bringing very little changes.
Actually, the problem lies with the business, which is this has become the business model. Education in India has become a business model now. The charity, in the name of charity, they are just opening the schools. They are taking admission. They are not following RT Act. And it's not only school, it's even the coaching institutes. I have seen in some of the schools, they have even started coaching classes. So I don't know what is happening.
Right.
So schools are mushrooming, coaching classes are mushrooming. In the name of education, they are just making money and they're doing nothing. As far as the implementation of RT Act is concerned, that is not happening. And the Mental Health Act is not being implemented. There are so many guidelines by NCPCR also. But that is also not happening, be it POXO or be it for counselors. Nothing is happening in the school. They're just mugging up the syllabus. Students are under pressure. At the same time, bullying is happening. Nobody is taking care of that. And the teachers are also humiliating children.
Absolutely.
So where will parents go? Where will children go?
Yeah.
It's a very tough situation.
It's a very
in
tough,
India.
especially for a young child, Sumit Jain, who can't open up. And the minute they open up, they're further ridiculed. at school, parents sometimes refuse to believe, and they're too busy, as Dilip also pointed out, to often cater to the needs of their kids because they've nannied their kids away at school. It becomes a very difficult situation for a young child.
Ma'am, Miss rightly said, like one of the point I want to raise, Mr. Cherian raised one of the points that schools, if they keep 20 counselors, so they have to keep up the fees and all those. Mr. Just rightly said by Mrs. that schools are charging exorbitantly. If you see the fee structure, they are charging exorbitantly. You can just understand, you have to understand that instead they are charging so exorbitant, still they are not giving the facilities which are actually required, even after charging so much. If you can just understand, I can give an example of my child. My child is having just pre-boards. The syllabus has been finished just 3 days before the pre-boards. They have started today and the syllabus has just finished 3 days before. So how the child will study? The pressure cooker situation has to be risen. You have to understand, the school has to understand that the syllabus has to be finished in time. But it is not happening. Parents are also what they do?
100%. It's a very difficult situation. What will the parents do? Deepak Kumar, last word to you. Is it time now for us to implement perhaps a national law or an anti-bullying legislation like in the US? Perhaps is that the only way forward to ensure that there are no scattered guidelines anymore, but there's a law. If your child is bullied, you can take your school to court.
I think we'll have to think about this because there is no other way unless we make sure that the law is obeyed, unless the government authorities make sure that they ask the schools to follow the rules, because otherwise I don't see any way. This will increase. If government has given a mandate, we all need to follow it, whether we like it or we don't like it. Similarly, as I said, all the stakeholders have to come together to make our children happy and enjoy the world of learning.
All right.
No one can be held responsible alone. But yes, government, please request them to be more serious about what they're doing.
Right.
And make sure that we all abide by the law of the land.
Absolutely. Law of the land and those guidelines, of course, that have been pushed out by the Supreme Court.
There is no shortcut.
There is no shortcut. This is a societal problem and it needs deeper solutions. It needs fundamental solutions as opposed to bubble-wrapped solutions by the way of scattered guidelines. Children's suicide, student suicide, that continues to be our focus on In Your Interest here at News9. Thank you very much, all of you, for taking time out for joining us on the show today. That's all we have. Thank you for watching.
बहुत टायर्ड हो गई।
Take a date, not bites. नो एडेड शुगर, प्रिजर्वेटिव के बिना डेट्स, बादाम, पिस्ता, काजू और शहद से तैयार किया गया लायन डेट्स नट बाइट्स। लायन डेट नट बाइट्स।
एक्सक्यूज मी, आपने भारत कनेक्ट का नाम सुना है? कोई जॉब वेबसाइट है? वैकेंसी है? जॉब्स नहीं, वो 700 से ज्यादा एप्स पे बिल पेमेंट्स पॉसिबल बनाते हैं। वाओ! आप हमें जानते नहीं पर मानते जरूर हैं। हम हैं भारत कनेक्ट।
बढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
आराम से हाँ। सामान देना भैया।
अब आगे क्या करना है? वो पिट्टू की पर्ची में देखो ना, कहाँ गई पर्ची?
नमस्ते
जी।
हाँ, मुझे पता है वो पर्ची में क्या लिखा होता है। आप चलिए मेरे साथ। व्हील चेयर, ये आपका और ये आपका। पर्ची में शॉपिंग की बात तो जरूर लिखी होती है। थोड़ी पेट पूजा की बात कोई पर्ची में ना लिखे, ऐसा हो सकता है? टिफिन
थैंक यू।
अरे पर्ची मिल गई।
पर्ची में तो ये सब लिखा ही नहीं था।
हम है ना आपकी पर्ची।
सिर्फ वर्ल्ड क्लास एयरपोर्ट्स नहीं चलाते हैं, आपके सफर में हम सफर बन जाते हैं, अदानी हम करके दिखाते हैं।
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News9, English news as it should be.
Well, Sanskrit language is dead. That's what Udayanidhi Stalin has said today, and literally reignited the language war between centre and DMK. The battle lines are drawn between Tamil Nadu and centre once again over language. DMK's Deputy Chief Minister Udayanidhi Stalin has taken a sharp dig at the union government, calling Sanskrit a dead language and questioning why Tamil continues to be neglected. Speaking at a book release event, Udayanidhi slammed the three-language policy, pointing out the huge disparity in funding. He said only 150 crore rupees is allocated for Tamil in the last decade compared to 2,400 crore for the dead language Sanskrit. He further added, PM himself wants to learn Tamil, but then he will impose Hindi and Sanskrit on our students and ignore Tamil language. How is this fair? He urged people to question this injustice ahead of the 2026 elections. The BJP has hit back, with senior leader Tamilisai Soundarajan saying no language should be called dead, defending Sanskrit's rich heritage. She added that Tamil itself has absorbed many Sanskrit words, showing its strength, not weakness. But this row is just the latest in a series of high-profile clashes between the Tamil Nadu and the BJP-led centre, often framed by the state as encroachment on federalism and discrimination against non-BJP states. On the three-language policy, the state has firmly rejected what it calls a Hindi imposition, insisting that students continue with just Tamil and English. On NEET, repeated bills seeking exemption for state board students have been rejected. The state argues the national exam disadvantages its students and violates principles of social justice. Tensions with the governor persist as well. Governor R.N. Ravi delayed his assent to several state bills, while the Supreme Court had favoured Tamil Nadu with timeline for clearance. A constitutional bench later rejected the deemed assent provision. Financial concerns remain high. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has demanded that Tamil Nadu receive 50% of the central taxes, highlighting the growing fiscal burden on the state. And with delimitation on the horizon, Tamil Nadu fears that after 2026, the Lok Sabha seats could be reduced. A move the state sees as a punishment for its successful population control measures. With elections approaching, the battle over language funding and the federal rights in Tamil Nadu is showing no signs of slowing down, and the fight for Tamil pride is set to take center stage. I'm being joined by A. Ashwathaman, who is a spokesperson for BJP in Tamil Nadu. And I'm also going to be joined by Salem Dhanidharan, who's a spokesperson for DMK. He joins us on the phone line. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Mr. Ashwathaman, first to you, how do you respond to what Udayanidhi Stalin has said? Do you take it literally in terms of what he has said, a dead language, or do you see it as a political dart?
Actually, that very idea of Dravidian party, particularly DMK, their idea is to eradicate all Indian languages. Their forefather, E.V. Ramasamy, said that Tamil should be eradicated. Tamil is a barbaric language, it should be eradicated. Like that, Udayanidhi now said, Sanskrit is a dead language. Sir, your name Udayanidhi itself, Sanskrit name, sir. How do you say so? What kind of approach is this? Sanskrit is a scientific language of India. See, if you go to Western, you can read hibiscus rosa sinensis. It is a Latin word. It is not an English word. Why we are using Latin word while reading the English means it is a scientific language of Western. Like that, Sanskrit is a scientific language of India. Even, you know, Empire Chola. the great empire of Tamil Nadu, all their inscriptions, they're using Sanskrit to depict scientific theories and other important theories. Their inscriptions also in Tamil and as well as Sanskrit. Every kalvet we said in Tamil.
Right.
Starts from Sanskrit letter only.
Okay, I've given you quite a bit of time, but Mr. Ashwathaman, here's the thing. You've made a very strong allegation